Hello, welcome to episode 24 of my journey building an AI search startup. I quit my Google job a couple of years ago to build this full time, and I'm building and I'm building and building. And today's one of those days where I want to talk about architecture and what's been going on. How am I building this, and what's been going on in terms of the whole sort of architecture? So, first of all, sorry about all that noise. This is my abode, and it is it is a mess. I deal with this every single day. People are building and breaking and constructing and every single day, and it's just been it's a to build a startup is painful. To bootstrap it with your own money is painful. To have your paycheck disappear for 2 years, very painful. And then live with this and build a startup. That's the worst of all. Worse than money. So I really don't know what to do about this. I'm not in a position to move. And so I have to kind of just live with it. I have my AirPods. And one of the things I do is I'll stick this in. But the noise today is so bad that my AirPods Pro 3, it doesn't cut it. One thing I will do for the rest of the video is I'll do this, change the setting for the mic mode to be voice isolation. There you go. I don't know if it makes a difference. It does, but this has been the worst part to live in a noisy, annoying neighbors, very loud place when you have to focus. And today is a special day because I'm terrified. And the reason I'm terrified is I'm now going through version 6. You heard it right, V6 of my architecture. Sixth iteration, and I haven't even launched. And I'm thinking, am I doomed? Like, am I forget dead on arrival? I don't will I even be able to launch? My target date is end of April, mid-April, end of April. I don't even know if I'll be able to launch. Forget fail. At this stage, I'm like, I'd love to fail. That means I've put my product out. It is crazy. So I want to talk a little bit about how did I end up with 6 versions. Now, building a search platform from scratch, an AI native search platform, sounds easy. You just take the user's query or prompt, run it to an LLM, and call it a day. Well, there are a few problems with that. The one is you get stale information from LLMs because they're frozen. So now you're thinking, well, I need to kind of ground it with the latest web search and web documents. Okay, easy enough. I'll use like grounding by Google or all that, or some search API. Okay, sounds good. Well, grounding by Google apparently is very limited, and I have access to Google's custom search API, and now they shut it down, like so many of Google APIs and products. So if I had gone ahead and built my entire startup on it, I would have gotten a letter. I did get a letter. January 2027, the API is going to shut down. You're screwed. Your startup is screwed. So don't rely on Google APIs. So you can't do Google custom search. You can use Exa and Brave, and there are other APIs. So you're like, okay, I'll call an API for the query that the user gets, and then ground it with web document. And then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I should include citations, like what part of the response comes from web results and what part of the response comes from the LLM. Not only you need to know it, the system needs to know it. We need to have metrics for it, and the user needs to know it. Good part is like we can show user like how Perplexity does, like, hey, we're grounding this information. But even that's hard. How do you do it? Another video. This is architecture video, so I'm not going to go in detail in any of these topics. But I'd love to do just on citation. That's a whole system, a whole thing that I had to do just to support good citations. Anyway, so then you do that. And then you try to start to realize, wait a minute, what is the search query I'll use in the first place? Because people type these very long prompts these days. I'm in school. I have an exam tomorrow on geography. I also broke up with my girlfriend. help me out with this subject or this topic in geography. Oh, and by the way, should I drink coffee? It's late at night. You can't stick that to a web query or a web search API. You'll get garbage or you'll get nothing, no matches. So that's another thing. Then you have to realize, oh, okay, well, I have to come up with a query. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm smart. I'll use an LLM. I'll use another LLM to have the LLM come up with a query from this long prompt or whatever we got from the user. I'm like, oh, that's easy. But then you come to realize, wait a minute, sometimes there's no easy way to make call just one query. There in the prompt I said there's so many different queries. So you have to now understand the user's intent. So then you're like, okay, well, that's easy. I'll just ask the LLM to come up with the intent first and then the query. Okay, okay. And then you're like, there's primary intent and secondary intent. More than one intent sometimes comes up. More than one queries come up. Then you're like, oh, wait, what's the user's language? And locale, like, because when you call, say, Google API or Search API, you can specify, oh, this is for Japan region. And then also based on the intent, do you want recent info or old info? Is this news? Should we pull news or should we pull like more Wikipedia, like factual data? Okay. You have to figure all that out. And then you're like, wait a minute, a lot of good data is behind closed doors, like closed walled gardens, let's just say that. So a lot of good data is on Twitter, like something's breaking or something new, etc. What do you do now? Okay, now I'll integrate Twitter or X API. Well, that's easy enough. Well, how do you integrate X API? When are you going to integrate it? Okay. And then after you get the API, how are you going to construct the response? Oh, no problem. I'll just stick everything in the LLM call, like summarize this. Okay. Well, what about then you think about like, wait a minute, but we should know something about the user. Like we should personalize it. Then the answer is going to be much more useful. Well, how do you know who the user is? Well, easy enough. The user has all these queries, prompts, and other things, and the profile, all that. But that's not good enough. Most of the time, that's not good enough. So now you have to figure out how do you profile a user, and then you figure out like, oh, all these systems are you can ask your Claude or ChatGPT, whatever, research on archive, Hacker News, all that jazz. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, you can do a personalization system this way, or you can use this API. And I've talked about this in my previous video, how big mistake it would be if you just rely on the third-party API for something like personalization. You have no control other than just API parameters. Very, very bad. You're kind of stuck. You also have to pay the latency cost. And then if you want to evolve it or etc., you can't. And you're stuck with also paying them. I don't think there are a lot of things you should build I'm a one person startup, one person. I'm building it alone and I'm completely using my own credit card every single day. Um, I have no investors and I have no intention to seek investment at the moment. Um, so I have to be careful, and so you can't build everything yourself. So there are some easy things in my mind to decide what to use an API and what to build by yourself. But that's a separate topic. But anyway, then you think I was talking personalization. Now you think of personalization. Then you're like, wait a minute. A lot of these other systems, what they do is they go through and the sort of whole query processing. As you can tell, we already introduced a bunch of steps. And then they introduce something called like evaluation LLM, critic LLM. There are lots of different terms where an AI or LLM evaluates, did you generate a decent response for what the user was asking? If not, try again. Simple for loop, honestly, it's like a for loop. But there's tons of research. It's called Craig loops, and um, there's lots of papers on it. And so I was studying those, find the latest research. That's one of the best parts of my job now. Like I every day I'm like, what's the latest? What's the latest research? What's published like this week, last week, things like that. By the way, to ask that kind of question is hard. If I ask my own search platform, what got published on archive this week, on what topic, like, and how will it go? It has to go search archive result, return back. It's very hard to get that query right. I figure out a way to get it done, but it's very hard. I'll just say that. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that, uh, by the way, I'll speak a little bit about the loop thing. What you're seeing on the screen is that kind of search plan. So that's something else that a lot of these AI agents do, search agents, search AI agents, whatever you want to call them. They have a plan. And if you use Claude Cowork, for example, makes it very obvious. We ask something, it comes up with a plan. So this, by the way, you don't want to do this for every query. If the user asks, what's the time in Tokyo? This may be overkill. So that, oh, by the way, that's another sort of query processing pipeline. Uh, what is the type of query? Is it a complicated query? Does it require A, B, C, D, E, F, or is it a simple query? Does it even need any web data, like fresh data? Does it need APIs? Can just LLM answer it? Like, for example, a query like, what is the meaning of life? How do you answer? I mean, the LLM itself can answer it. But is that what you want? Well, we can do maybe better. What if we're a search platform? So we should maybe always search. And maybe something fresh got posted online, and we'll take that, infuse it in the LLM's answer. And so we have some identity of our own, how we do it and what's our prompt and things like that. So now we have that kind of step to figure out what kind of query is it, how complex it is, what APIs you need to call. Um, and you can see now how this sort of platform evolves. And uh, needless to say, I started with V1, that was very simple, V2, V3, V4. V5 I kind of skipped. Actually, V2 also I skipped. V1 was very simple, like a prototype, like, hey, it's working. That V1's like a 1 week kind of, or 2 weeks kind of a system. It's kind of like it kind of works, but like, man, you want to kind of enhance it. And so then you overshoot it. I overshot it, and V2 became too complicated. And then I brought back uh, to kind of ground reality some of the concepts that I can actually implement as one person company. And that was V3. And V3 went a long way. 6 months of building V3, 6 months, V3. I showed it off to friends and family. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is pretty good. Of course, improve it, but this is good foundation." And then I realized it's missing this planning, it's missing the looping. So a lot of refinements to kind of really make it interesting. Also, it wasn't able to answer the query I was talking about, like what got posted on archive last week. It could, but it was not very great. It was not very great at calling Twitter API with the right parameters. One of the things I didn't mention is my core tenet. Like I have some tenets for my product, for my startup. It's like I'll die, but I won't launch my product without this. One of my core tenets, or the very first core tenet, is multilingual and global from day one. I I don't care what other people think, but that's who I am. If my search uh, product search app doesn't respond in Japanese if a Japanese query comes, and with the right localization, so like it biases on Japanese data on day one, it's a fail, because I'll put it out and someone from Japan or Canada or India, Mexico will try, and we'll just get like response. And besides, forget, I don't even think that far. It's like me. I'm almost like a global citizen. I spend so much time in America every year, so much time in India, and then I'm finding some other places to go to work and kind of do this thing. So it's kind of, I need it myself, and so that also was becoming complicated for V3, and so then I came up with V4. V4 was also what I say spiritual, like it was good. I mean, some enhancements, but I never kind of implemented end to end. Kind of halfway through it was another branch, maybe. No, I don't think I used another branch. It was, oh yeah, it was like parallel. I have parallel folders. So I have agents underscore V3, agents underscore V4, agents underscore V5. Uh, so it was parallel implementation that proved the point, but it didn't quite do it. It again got too complicated. And then I went to V5, and V5 was amazing until I hit a wall. So the problem with V4 was, um, I'm sorry, the problem with V5 was I tried to use too much of the modeled intelligence. So if you use Grok, for example, which one of my favorite chat apps these days, especially the expert mode. It's really good, really good. It's, I mean, incredible. That I use Grok when I use Grok Expert, then I use my product and I think about it. It's like, why does anyone need my product when Grok Expert is so good? But then there are some gaps. And also, I want to build this in a way that I see it, which is very user centric, very, very customizable and privacy focused. And I can do that with Grok. It's not my product. I'd love to build this sort of small, a really great product that comes from a small company that puts user on the center and not investors. And slowly and steadily, thanks to the LLMs, thanks to all the AI tooling that's available, it may become a very good alternative, and in my opinion, could even become the primary search product for many users, especially professionals and founders and folks who like to be on the cutting edge. And not just cutting edge, but they who want to save time. The mission of my company, by the way, is to improve human happiness, and the primary way is to save them time and make them do less, and give them a sort of a relaxed experience. And my branding is around that as well. Anyways, so V5, I rely too much on model intelligence, and meaning, oh, I won't do all these sort of workflow pipeline thing too much, like, because it's like still kind of static, hard coded almost. I'll just let the model drive everything. So you have kind of a workflow model, and then it drives using function tools. So like you use Gemini. So Gemini, you can have function tool for weather, function tool for search, function tool for X. But with the problem I ran into, at first I was like, wow, I'm like, as Gemini gets better, my product automatically gets better. I don't have to do this pipeline. All that went away. But immediately the problem I ran into was lack of control and lack of consistency. Sometimes Gemini would call search or YouTube API. Sometimes it won't. And I mean, you can ask it to give it a reason, but it didn't make sense to me. It was very hard to control. And that's the problem with these LLMs. They're very unpredictable. And so I wanted transparency, like, why is the LLM doing it? Other than asking the LLM to also give a reason, it just, yeah, again, I overshot it. So that was V5. And then V6 is what I call it hybrid architecture. So it's using model intelligence, model tooling where it makes sense, where I don't want that control. And then it's using um, what I did in V3 and then continued in V4, which is a proper sort of search pipeline, which I think can be driven by a lot more intelligent LLM or a fine-tuned LLM in the future. So everything, all the steps I'm outputting and logging for the processing of queries. So, for example, where is the time in Tokyo? The pipeline takes a different route because it's a simpler query. You don't have to do all this planning and things like that. But if it's, like I said earlier, a query like what's new in archive this week related to visual systems, vision systems, something like that. That's, I mean, now it's like, yeah. And again, I don't want a shallow response. If you call this, so right now, if you see here, I have Exa Search, which is a very popular API. One of my favorite companies, by the way. I love Exa. In fact, I often visualize once my product's out because it's looking pretty good. Even though all the complaints I'm doing it's looking pretty good. And so I'm like envision like, oh, you know what, if Exa team sees what I've built, they should just acquire me. Because now instead of the API that they have a proper full end-to-end product. So I kind of just visualize that. But Exa is pretty great. I love the company. They have their own index that, you know, they give their search API. YouTube, you also see YouTube. I want YouTube. I watch YouTube all the time. Right now, YouTube's on. Just like um, I just watch travel or just relaxing Zen videos to kind of calm me and kind of have something in the background because I'm working alone in a room. It's just by myself. It gets very lonely, and so YouTube kind of just something background That's not distracting. Helps me out. So YouTube search is so much of info I get from YouTube. So YouTube, and then Access Twitter API, of course. And then you have something called the executor. So for each platform, you read, you call, et cetera, and all steps at the same priority, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so what I was showing you, I just wanted to highlight that this is new that I've introduced in V6. I'm terrified that I keep doing this V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, V6. It just sometimes gives me a scare in the middle of the night. I just wake up like, holy shit, what am I doing? And also, you don't have someone to talk to. I mean, I talk to AI. At this point, it's like I have a company with all AI employees. So I do use Claude, or I'll ask Grok, what do you think? Am I stupid? You're my 50% partner. Tell me, what do you think? Tell me, what do you think we should do? Search the web and tell me. Search Hacker News, learn from other founders, and tell me, what do you think we should do. So it kind of, I have that virtual discussion, but I have to initiate. That's also one of the problems today with current AI. The push, like it initiating discussion, never happens. Almost never. When other than just some notification that ChatGPT post sends you or something. But that's one of my vision for Calm Search is there is a push model, which we'll talk about in the future video, but it can trigger a conversation, not you always triggering a conversation. But anyways, I mean, I worry about this, but I thought this was important enough, what you see on the screen. This again doesn't apply to all queries, so that's also a component I have to find out what kind of query it is, and does it deserve this kind of a plan effort, and for every step in the plan, what to do, and how what happens from step one to step two, step three. Like here, what do I have for each plan step? Step toml is just like the configuration. Step params is for it, in this case, these are APIs. Every API has separate parameters. Like you call YouTube API. YouTube API has a bunch of params. And then collect raw results. So yeah, you get raw results typically just JSON. So all these APIs, they will give you a JSON result back. And then all steps at same priority. Why is screen so bright? Oh, now it's bright. It's so low. All steps at same priority parallel. Oh, so yeah, parallel means these are all good. That's another thing, by the way. The search plan gets executed in parallel. So there's a component that I've developed called the executor. It's just dispatcher. It just fetches all the call. Async I is just a wait on all these calls. And then there's a bunch of other thing happening. This is a small part of the pipeline that I've built. Um, but it's looking better and better. But I do, like I said in this video when I started, I was like, am I doomed? Will I ever launch? Will I ever launch? I one thing I recommend others who are watching is always have a date, a target. So since I started, I was like April. The reason I picked April was that's Google Cloud Next conference. It's in Las Vegas. I was there a couple of years back, and I don't know if I'll go there, but before the conference, I wanted to just finish it and submit my startup to Google Cloud for credits and help. Um, I'm using Google Cloud infrastructure. They should help me out. I'm paying them money every month. So I had this sort of April target, but it's getting closer and closer, and I'm re-architecting. Now I'm like on V6. uh, Not a great thing. If you're a program manager or something and you're listening to this, you're like, shoot it down instantly. How can we launch if you re-architect a month before? So, and then some of the re-architectures are just like extra components, or in this case, there was a plan-like component that was in V5. It was not formal, it was LLM based, and again, kind of no transparency, no control. And so it's replaced with a formal component, the search plan. Um, so when I say re-architecture, it's often deprecating older systems with newer systems, but also changing something fundamental. It's like V6, also like how the pipeline now works end to end. So another thing in V6 that enters new was um, I had in V5, but this much better component, dedicated component for query understanding and query complexity. And then when this gets triggered and when that gets triggered, um, and also transparency metrics. So I know what's going on behind the scenes and across the board as more queries come in from different users. Um, yeah, so I think that was it. This diagram keeps going, but I'm going to stop because um, I may do an architecture deep dive on just V6, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be my final architecture. And maybe in a future session that goes through the entire pipeline, like the first step, query understanding, and how do you go to the plan or synthesis or synthesis plus grounding with web content, um, like latest news on Elon Musk, right? I think search plan may not be needed. Instead, it'll go through a synthesis step with API calls. So it'll just go call news and Twitter posts or X posts from Elon and summarize, put it all together and summarize. Um, but it's been fun. I loved every single bit, and I can't wait. Really can't wait to get this out. And I have zero expectations. It's just for me. It's like before I die, I did this and did this in a way that's user centric is the key. That's the other tenet. Global from day one is one tenet. The other tenet user centric. We're transparent. If we do something, if we record something, we instantly show. Like, so if I save a memory, I instantly flash memory save from this response, and you can delete it as a user or edit it. So transparency, control, you can delete all the memories, you can delete all your data, uh, and user centric. Like we want to make sure, like one of the things I'm exploring is private by default. So nothing gets stored by default unless you say so. It's a pretty radical idea actually, because you're limiting data you're collecting, and data is the currency in today's world. But if I think about a user-centric app, by the way, yeah, this thing's still going on. Oh, it drives me crazy. It's like drilling, in your brain. But if I ask myself a user-centric AI app, what would I expect? That comes to at least my mind that keep it private by default, and I'll check a box. Like make it easy for me if I want you to remember. Versus today in ChatGPT, you have to do private mode explicitly, and most of the time you forget, and you have all these chat conversations on the sideline or sidebar, and they just like clutter up, and like then you put them in a folder to just shoo them away, and also ChatGPT knows all these weird things about you. Sometimes you're searching, like sometimes I search for my son, like to help him with his school project, and ChatGPT may think I'm a geography student. So it's pretty broken. Personalization is very broken. And I have a way to fix that. And the fundamental idea behind fixing it is, oh my God, these people, the fundamental idea behind how I think I would fix it or I am fixing it is to keep things private by default. Like give users explicit control, and that explicit intent gives a much stronger signal for personalization. So you collect less data, but it's more meaningful, more useful data, more users relevant data. Then you collect data and garbage, and of course you can use LLM to read through all the garbage. And that's kind of, by the way, today's world, AI apps, just use LLMs or LLMs or LLMs, more. That's all we're doing. Just using up more and more energy and just more and more cost. Weird world we're entering. That's why I support actually Elon Musk's data center in space. We'll need it. I don't even think we have a decade. I think we have 2 years before we can, like within 2 years we need a data center in space. In 2 years also I'm kind of being a little conservative. But in 2 years we need one. Even though it's small, so we need it. Okay. Anyways, that's all for today. You guys tell me if I'm doomed or not. 30-minute markers up. Um, I don't know if I'm doing, but I'm just going with what I think is right while keeping the tight timeline and goal post, which is April. And we'll see what happens. If this thing doesn't kill me, this all these noise. If they don't kill me, I'll launch. Hasta la vista. Bye.